Hey everyone, my name is David. I am a former Beaver Creek High School drum major of 2 years and was also an alumni of the Fred J. Miller Summer Clinics or Drum Major Camp program. So today we are going to learn about conducting. So in these next videos, we're going to go through the basic foundational skills of conducting, how you can conduct for the band and prepare for any drum major workshops or auditions that you have coming your way. Today we're starting with posture. So posture is pretty standard with what you might typically have been used to in marching band. Definitely the 5 points of alignment are super important to remember. If you need a refresher, the ankles, knees, hips, that's 3, shoulders 4, and then your head on top is 5. If your shoulders are behind your hips, that means you're putting your weight into your heels, and you're definitely not going to want that. That's going to create a lot of problems in the future. So remember, shoulders in front of your hips, and keeping them relaxed is so incredibly important. And then your head, making sure that you are facing a little bit up and have that 1,000-yard stare. So, what about the lean? A lot of times when we're talking about posture, we talk about the 10% forward lean. Yes, this is really important for typical marching band instruments, but in my experience, I have found a nice medium between 5 to 8% lean. Reason being, you're on a podium, you don't want to accidentally put too much momentum on forward, you don't want to fall off or anything, but a 5 to 8 will help you settle a little bit more. And a lot of times when we talk about the 10% forward lean, some people exaggerate it quite a bit much, so settling back just a little bit so it's a little more comfortable for you. Again, you do not want to set your weight into your heels. You want just a little bit of a lean there. Okay, so what about arm position? Now if you're walking down the street, you can shake your arms out if you need to, but I want you to notice the natural curve that your arm has, the way that your bicep connects to the forearm. See, there's a little curve there, and especially take a look at the hand. The hand has a natural curve just by resting. You're not thinking about doing anything, just pay attention to how this is. Now, when you're conducting, you want to be as natural as possible. You want things to be very relaxed, because the more relaxed you are, the more confident and secure you appear. So, as you're conducting, make sure you maintain this like noodle-like relaxed position, okay? Our first step is going to be to bring our arms up. And there are a couple ways you can do this. First, you can check it out. One way that I like to kind of get a general gauge is to put your thumbs in between your armpits and then reach out in front of you. And this will be around where your table is going to be. Imagine like there's an invisible table, and on this table is going to be all the points where you are going to hit your beats. You should not pass below the table or above the table. You want to hit exactly at that table. This will be around your table. It will be a bit below your shoulders, but again, this is going to vary based on your height. Now, if you have different sized drum majors, for instance, if you have a way taller drum major and a way shorter drum major, you're going to want to compensate that for a little bit. So a taller drum major might want to put his table a little down, and a shorter drum major might want to put his table a little bit up to even it out. But again, this is more of a scenario where you have more than one drum major on the field. All right, once you've found around where your table should be, you're going to bring your arms up. So make sure that all those 5 points of alignment are good in place, and we're going to swing our arms up. Ready? 1, 2, 3, on up. Okay? This is what you want your posture to look like. You're going to want to extend a comfortable amount up. I want you to see this is almost perpendicular without violating the natural curvature of our arms. So again, concentrate on making sure that those shoulders are ahead of your hips, and especially this, make sure your fingers are pointing down. We don't want to cant up, and we don't want to cant down, down. Almost completely on a straight line with the table between your fingers and your elbow. This is because you don't want to confuse the band on where the beat is. If I cant my hands up and I start conducting like this creates a question for the band. Is the beat where my elbow hits, or my hand, my wrist hits, or is it where the fingers finally stop moving? You don't want to create these questions of confusion. Again, there's a natural curvature to the fingers. We don't want to go reach out flat like this, and we also don't want to have like these crab hands like this, okay? Just stop trying to think so hard about it. Shake your fingers out. What do your hands feel like? Boom, there it is. Constantly ask yourself, are my shoulders ahead of my hips? Because that's the most common problem that I see. especially throughout the season as you get lazy. You might sit back. This isn't a vacation. Make sure you keep those shoulders ahead of your hips. And this will be your general posture. Make sure that those shoulders are relaxed. The more tense you are, the harder it will be to conduct. So if you find yourself having trouble, shake it out, roll back your shoulders, swing your arms up, and that is it for posture. Okay, next we're gonna go through some basic terminology. The first is your ictus, I-C-T-U-S. The ictus is simply the point at which your hand hits the beat. So if you imagine your table, okay, if I'm gonna say I'm doing arrow, which is a pattern, this point where I'm hitting the beat is your ictus. Again, just the point at where you create the beats. When we were trying to find where our table was for our ready or set position, this is our horizontal plane. There's also a plane called the sagittal plane. The sagittal plane can be a little bit weird. So it's going to be this vertical plane, right? You don't want your fingers to go ahead of the plane, but you also don't want them so far behind the plane, okay? You want to keep it consistent so that when you're conducting, you are not crossing. And we'll go through a couple issues, but sometimes you will need to compensate or imagine your beat threes to be a little further out so that your playing remains consistent. You'll see that when we're starting to learn our arrow, our strict, and our basic patterns. Okay, we're gonna get started with our first exercise, which are our beat one exercises. We're just going to try to make that consistent, that we're not crossing the sagittal plane, and that we're getting a consistent table. Now there are a couple ways that you can make sure that you're hitting that same beat. There's an exercise you can do with a friend, where they hold open their hands where your set position is, and then you'll just simply bounce on their hands to make sure that you are not going above and below, making sure that your friend is keeping their hands as straight as they can. Another one is to grab a music stand. So you get into your set position, and it can't be one of those wire stands, just a regular music stand that you'd use in band class. You lay it out face up, so instead of having the music stand in front of you, go like that. Find where your table is, you'll set the music stand there, and then conduct off of it. That's one also great exercise you can do by yourself to make sure that when you're hitting your beat one, you are really actually hitting it right where you need to get consistent. Again, we're trying to look for cleanliness so that when you're doing your beat one, you're consistent at this hit and you're not doing this. Because this starts to get confusing and it's quite a bit dirty in your conducting. When you're conducting your beat one exercises, make sure that you're concentrating on gravity, doing its work, and think of it more as your beat on a trampoline versus hitting it. So this would be more of a trampoline. This is what it looked like if you're hitting it. You don't want that, it's bad technique, and it might hurt you in the long run. So make sure you're being bouncy and thinking like a trampoline very lightly on how you do it. So we are going to simply work on our beat ones to get used to the idea of an ictus and a table at quarter note equals 108, okay? And feel free to pause the video and repeat the exercise as needed. I'll give you 8 counts in. Get set. 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, 8. How's your posture? Are your shoulders ahead of your hips, or have you already set behind? Loosen those shoulders, relax. If you need to, you can shake it out if you feel yourself getting stiff, because again, staying relaxed is the most important thing you can be doing right now. How's your timing? Last measure, relax. All right, great work, how'd that feel? If you find yourself getting stiff, make sure to keep working on relaxing those shoulders, because that's going to be super important as you're working through your conducting technique. When should your fingers and your elbow hit the table? They should be around the same time, actually, because you don't want to create a discrepancy where your elbow hits first and then your fingers, and this just looks unnatural if your fingers hit first before your elbows. So make sure that you get that timing fairly consistent, so a beat would look like this. Okay? And And again, those fingers are going to be pointing down. Next, we're going to get into how to do our 3 patterns.